Teacher's Corner, we're going to look at division properties of exponents. So let's remember from the previous video that when we multiply, we add the exponent. So if I have x to the third times x to the seventh, I'm going to add the exponents. I'm going to get x to the fifth. Now, when we divide, which is the opposite operation of multiplying, we're going to subtract. So if I have x to the seventh over x to the fourth, I'm going to subtract and I end up with x to the third. Let's take a look at some examples. So in letter A, I have a to the fifth over a to the third. So there's more a's on the top. So I'm going to subtract and I get a to the second. There would be a 1 on the bottom, so I don't need to write that. We're just going to leave that as a to the second. Now, looking at letter B, I have b to the fifth over b to the second. There's more on the top, right? It would be like if we had 5 b's on the top and we had 2 b's on the bottom and we simplified them, we would be left with 3 b's. We're going to subtract. So I have b to the third times c to the seventh. Now, example C is slightly different because I have more on the bottom. So I'm still going to subtract, but I'm going to have 5 minus 2 on the bottom, which is 3. And I can't leave just a blank on the top. That's actually 1. We simplify that to 1. Now, let's take a look at a word problem. It says, at sea level, there are about 10 to the 25th molecules in a cubic liter of air. In the stratosphere, which is about 30 kilometers above the Earth's surface, the same cubic liter of air has about 10 to the 23rd molecules. Approximately, how many times as many molecules are there in cubic liter of air at sea level as there are to a stratosphere? So the first one that we have listed is the air. So we know that's going to be our numerator, and it's comparing that to the stratosphere, the molecules in the stratosphere. So in the air, we were told it was 10 to the 25th, right there. And in the stratosphere, we were told it was 10 to the 23rd. Now, in a word problem, when I'm asking to compare, I'm going to divide. So the first one that's listed, air, is on the top, and the stratosphere is on the bottom. Now, my base is the same. They're both 10. So that means I'm going to subtract my exponents. So 25 minus 23 gives me 2. 10 to the second power is 100. So again, we're talking about, it said how many times. So it's going to be 100 times more in the air than in the stratosphere when we're talking about molecules. All right, let's look at our next rule of division. So if I have something, a fraction, which is dividing, and it's raised to a power, both the numerator and the denominator are raised to the power. So everything inside gets raised to the power. So again, in this example here, I have 2x to the third is my numerator. So 2 gets to the second power, gets raised to the power. X to the 3 times 2 gives me 6. I can't forget about the denominator. So 3 to the second, and then 2 times 2 gives me 4, so I have y to the fourth. So at this point, I'm going to clean up my 2 squared, which is 4, and 3 squared is 9. Those numbers can't simplify. I have only x on the top and only y on the bottom, so that's my final answer there. All right, let's try a few. So here I have C, 2 times 2 gives me 4, and B, 3 times 2 gives me 6. I can't simplify that, so that's my final answer. Looking at the next one, I have 5 to the third power, and then I have A to the 2 times 3 gives me 6, all over 6 to the third. Now my A to the 6 is fine. I just need to clean up my numbers. So 5 to the third is 125, and I believe that A to the 6 is my numerator. 6 to the third is 216, so that's my final answer right there. Okay, we're going to keep going. Again, I have 5 squared, W to the 8th, all over 9 squared. X, remember this is a 1, so 1 times 2 gives me 2. Same thing with the Y. And I'll clean that up a little bit. I have 25, W to the 8th, all over 81, X to the second, Y to the second, and that's my final answer. Okay, let's look at some more examples. So in this case, I have D to the 5th over D to the 7th. So I can simplify that first, and that gives me 1 over D squared because I have more on the bottom. So I take that, I put my parentheses around it, I square it. 1 squared, my numerator gives me 1. D squared raised to the second power gives me D to the fourth. The power to a power, I'm going to multiply. Looking at letter B, again, everything inside gets raised to the power. But first, I'm going to simplify. So I have x to the fourth over x to the first gives me x to the third on the top. Y to the second over y gives me y to the first in my numerator as well. And then z is left on the bottom. I'm going to raise everything to the third power. And I'm left with x to the ninth, y to the third, z to the third. And that's the most simplified answer. And looking at our next problem, first, again, we're going to simplify what we have inside the parentheses. So 4 over 2 gives me 2 in the numerator. J to the third over j to the seventh. I'm going to subtract, but I have more on the bottom, so that gives me j to the fourth. And then I have k to the first on top. Now I'll raise that to the second power, so I end up with 2 squared. K, remember this is a 1, so 1 times 2 gives me 2. And then 4 times 2 gives me j to the 8th. So the last thing I have to do is just simplify this 2 squared as 4. So I'm left with 4k squared all over j to the 8th. Okay, let's take a look at our final set of problems. What value of n makes each statement true? So I have a lot going on, so I really just need to focus on where the n is. In this problem, the n is attached to the x. So I have x to the n. Now again, I have an x on the bottom is equal to x. There's only an x in the numerator, and that's to the first power, so I'm going to put that there. So in order to make this true, remember, this is a 1. So what will make that number true? Well, I have to subtract. 2 minus 1 gives me 1. So x to the second over x to the first would give me x to the first. So that value for n is equal to 2. Okay, looking at the next one, my b has the n raised to the power as my answer. So again, I'm only going to concentrate on the b. That's my denominator. So I have b to the fourth raised to the third. So it's a power to power. I'm going to multiply. And I have b to the n also as a denominator in my answer. So n is equal to 12. Okay. And my final problem here, again, I'm just looking at my y. So this is a little tricky because it's raised to the power. So I'm going to say this is what I have. I have y to the 6 over y to the n power. I'm sorry. And then it's raised to the second power. And that's going to be y to the 8th. So that gives me y to the 12th over y to the n times 2, right? So let's rewrite that. I have y to the 12 over y to the 2n is equal to 8. Right? 8 is my power, y to the 8. So when I subtract, I have 12 minus 2n is going to give me 8. So again, if I'm not sure about that, if I can't see it, I can just kind of do my algebra here. So that gives me, I'm going to move over here so I have a little bit more room. That gives me negative 2n, and I'll subtract 12 from both sides is equal to negative 4. If I divide both sides by negative 2, then n is equal to 2. So that's my final answer there. Okay, thanks so much for stopping by today. You have a great day.